is by far the best candidate for the job. But it's also because I personally have for so long admired her courage and her devotion to helping others. I grew up in a working class manufacturing mill town, and I was so fortunate to have every opportunity that a kid could need to succeed. I had truly outstanding teachers who went to work every day and worked to give me and my friends every tool that we could need to learn and grow, not just as students, but as people too. And it was those same teachers who in 2008 encouraged me to march myself down to Hillary's campaign office, pick up a phone for the first time, and get to work. Because what I knew then, just as clearly as I know now, is that Hillary Clinton is the champion that our public school teachers and students need. And as president, I know that she will go to work every single day to work to make sure that every kid in America has the same chance that I had to succeed, no matter who they are or where they live. But I also knew that she couldn't do it alone. She needed my help back in 2008, and she needs all of our help again to win the Wisconsin primary on Tuesday. And we here in Wisconsin know just how important elections are. We know how much is at stake in this election, and we also know that there is nothing in this race that matters more than neighbors talking to neighbors and friends talking to friends about the issues that they care about. And so I'm asking you today to commit yourself and take action in this effort, to commit to support Hillary Clinton in the primary on Tuesday, to commit to knocking on doors and making phone calls, and to bring 1 or 2 or 3 friends with you. This campaign is working so hard to earn every single vote and every volunteer, and I hope that you will join us in this effort. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much for all the work that you have done and all the work you will do. Let's go win Wisconsin for Hillary on Tuesday.
Let's hear it for Hillary Clinton, folks. I want to thank you for being here today. Today we will together have a chance to hear from the next President of the United States. My name is Dana Wachs, and I'm proud to serve Eau Claire in the state legislature. I'm in the state assembly, and I'm pleased to welcome Hillary Clinton to our hometown. I'm proud to say that I was the very first legislator in Wisconsin to endorse Hillary Clinton. I'm supporting Hillary Clinton because she's a fighter. She's been a fighter her whole life. And Hillary Clinton has the skills, the intelligence, and toughness to tackle the issues facing this country today. She will fight for everyone. Hillary Clinton will fight so that everyone has a chance for a bright future, for themselves and for their families. Hillary will fight to break down the barriers holding people back and the barriers that unjustly benefit certain corporations. And she won't quit until we get the results we need. Hillary Clinton will take on corporations that avoid paying taxes. Hillary Clinton will put people back to work and raise incomes by investing in clean energy and high-tech manufacturing. Hillary Clinton will break down the barriers so that every child will get the education they deserve, no matter what their zip code. Many of you know that in addition to being a legislator, I'm an attorney. I'm an attorney with 30 years of experience in the court system, in our courtrooms, in the federal and state system here in Wisconsin. I have a great respect for our legal system. I certainly have a great respect for the highest court in the land, the United States Supreme Court. Earlier this week, I and several others had a chance to see Secretary Clinton speak about the recent partisan games that the Republicans in Washington, including Ron Johnson, our senator, they've been playing with President Obama's selection to fill the vacancy on the Supreme Court. Secretary Clinton spoke eloquently and thoughtfully about this issue and why this represents the absolute worst in politics today. While watching her address this issue, I was once again reminded of the incredible strength, the depth of knowledge on many issues, and the breadth and determination of Secretary Clinton. She will make a tremendous president. Been anyone more qualified to be the President of the United States in the history of this nation. But to get her there, we're going to need your help, folks. We're going to need your help. We need you to knock on doors. We need you to get out and vote on Tuesday. We need you to make calls and give people rides to the polls. And if we work together, Hillary Clinton will be the next President of the United States. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Senator Tammy Baldwin and Secretary Hillary Clinton.
Before you hear from the next President of the United States. I want you to know why I support Secretary Clinton, but I know I only have 5 minutes and that could take an hour. I think one of the true tests is what people do with their lives before they're in the public spotlight. And I so admired the fact that Hillary Clinton, right out of law school, took on the task of organizing parents of children with disabilities, to make sure that their children had equal educational opportunities. And yes, and that fight for children and the voiceless and the soft-voiced among us has never stopped, as you know. As First Lady, she pushed through and laid the foundation for the Children's Health Insurance Program. She also used that platform to put women's rights on the global stage when she said in Beijing that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. I will also mention, and this one's very personal, but she also took a little time off when she was First Lady to come to Wisconsin and help stump for this unknown young woman who was running for the House of Representatives in South Central Wisconsin, for which I am personally very grateful. I think of her time as senator, especially representing the state during and following the 9/11 attacks, and making sure that we marshaled a compassionate and comprehensive response. And I think about her experience gained in 4 years as our Secretary of State, promoting smart U.S. power, building coalitions, laying the groundwork for peace, and putting LGBT rights on the global stage. But, so I would certainly make the case that you have before you and you are about to hear from the most well-prepared, experienced person to be Commander-in-Chief and President on day one that we've seen or in either party. But I just want to say a couple of words about the place you find yourself in. You know, this is Eau Claire, this is the Chippewa Valley, this is Wisconsin. And we're pretty proud of being Wisconsinites. We love Wisconsin, and we have a lot of things to love, a heritage to be proud of. Our natural resources are unmatched. We work hard, we play hard. We expect that work will be rewarded, not just wealth. And yet, we have seen some enormous battles in our state and some incredible threats to the things we value, the things we love here. And I say to you in Wisconsin who love this state and care so deeply about this state that we would have no better ally in the White House as we rebuild and we reverse some of the damage that's been done as Hillary Clinton. And I say this, and I'll let Secretary Clinton fill in the details, but I say this about helping our brothers and sisters in organized labor regain their voices in the workplace. I say this about rebuilding our economy in Wisconsin and making hard work pay again. I say this about the Wisconsin idea and this K-12 and higher education public system that we so love and cherish but has been devastated in recent years. And I say this on behalf of the women in this state who have seen this state pass more limiting laws relating to our reproductive health and repealing equal pay for equal work laws. It is time, folks. It is time. The whole country, the whole world is watching Wisconsin as we become the only state to vote in a primary next Tuesday. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support of Secretary Clinton. And again, I give you the next President of the United States, Hillary Clinton.
excited about being here this afternoon, and I apologize for the delay. We had two problems. We had a lot of wind, which took us longer, and we had to start later because of actually getting our way here. And the second is that we had so many people show up, and we have an overflow room. I want to say hello to the overflow who is listening to us. Thank you so much for your patience. And even the overflow room could not accommodate everyone, and people waited and waited, and I want to apologize to them. If you know any of them, please tell them I'm sorry. But it's a great outpouring of interest in the primary, and I am so grateful you've taken your time to come and be with me. I want to thank your great senator. Tammy Baldwin is in the tradition of great Wisconsin senators. And personally, I hope she is joined next January by Russ Feingold. I was born in Chicago. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I actually spent a lot of time when I was young in Wisconsin, going to some of your beautiful lakes, church camp, Girl Scout camp, just really enjoying the beauty of Wisconsin. But there was something else I learned as I got older, and that was how Wisconsin was such a pioneer in making progress on behalf of working people, a pioneer in this Wisconsin idea that understood before most of the rest of the country did that the economy and higher education were linked. I admire that. Even though I haven't had to live through it, as all of you have, I have been just so disheartened to see the dismantling of so many pieces of what made Wisconsin not just a great state to live in and a great state to work in, but an example for so many others. And I'm hoping that I will have a chance, if I'm so fortunate enough to be your president, to work with you to defeat Scott Walker. And I'm also a Democrat, and have been a proud Democrat all my adult life. And I think that's kind of important if we're selecting somebody to be the Democratic nominee of the Democratic Party. But what it also means is that I know how important it is to elect state legislators, to elect Democratic governors, to elect a Democratic Senate and House of Representatives. As Tammy said, I came and campaigned for her, boy, a long time ago, 98, was it 98? And I just met a young woman outside who said, I first heard you speak when I was 10 years old and you came to campaign for Tammy Baldwin, running for the House of Representatives. I'm proud of that, friends, because I really want to support people who want to help other people, who understand what public service is supposed to be about. It is about building a better future for everyone, knocking down barriers that stand in the way of any Wisconsinite or American getting ahead, pursuing his or her own dreams. And so I'm running for president to be a good partner, not just with Tammy, but with people all over our country. in elected positions, in business, in unions, in academics, in civic organizations, in education, because I believe with all my heart that America's best days can be ahead of us. If we roll up our sleeves, we set some big goals again, we start treating each other with respect and kindness and work toward those goals. I am well aware that in this election, there is a lot of frustration and frankly a lot of anger. Many people are feeling left out and left behind in our great country. And they're looking for answers, and I don't blame them one bit. But I have watched how we make progress in America. And once you finish venting your anger, then you've got to elect people who can get things done, and we have to work together. And that is what I'm promising. I am promising you that I will work every single day from the first day I'm in the White House to the last day for you. I will fight for you, and we will make progress together. And I want to tell you what I intend to do because I want you to know. I think that's only fair. It shouldn't be enough that people just make promises that are going to be really hard, if not impossible to keep, or even worse, give speeches that incite anger and violence against our fellow Americans. Those are not an agenda. You need an agenda. Because when you show up in Washington, you gotta have your head down, you gotta have your goals set. I want to, if I'm so fortunate enough to be the nominee, to literally start working on that as soon as I secure the nomination. Because I'm well aware that it's going to take all the energy I have and all the energy of everybody else to push through what I am proposing. And let me tell you what it is. Number one, the first test a president should face as you decide whether to hire somebody, because think about this. This is your chance to hire somebody, to do the job. So you have to say to yourself, who of everybody running can actually make a positive difference in my life, the life of my family, my community? And how are they going to do it? Show me. Tell me how it's going to happen. I think that is absolutely the first test that anybody running for president should not only face, but pass in your estimation. So here's what I want to do. I say I want to knock down these barriers. I want to start with economic barriers. We need more good jobs with rising incomes because we fell back the last 15 years because of the terrible economic policies of George W. Bush in those 8 years that he was in Washington. It should not have happened. It should not have happened. You know, it is a fact that our economy does better when we have a Democrat in the White House. And let's just look at our two most recent Democratic presidents, both of whom I know. I can tell you this, at the end of 8 years of my husband's presidency, we had 23 million new jobs, and incomes went up for everybody, not just people at the top. Middle-class families, working families, even poor families were lifted up. So I'm not talking about ancient history here. This happened not very long ago because we had a president who knew how to get things done, who understood how important it was to set those goals and get up every day and work toward them. And I want to do the same. I was in the Senate for those 8 years under Bush, and they were hard years. Hard years, number one, because even before 9/11 happened, which was so devastating, his priority was to cut taxes on the wealthy, get out of the way of corporations, throw away the rule book when it came to Wall Street, and just ignore the mortgage market. That about sums up his economic policy, which was trickle down on steroids, right? They cut taxes not only in the spring of 2001. We had 9/11. In September, they came back and cut taxes again. They waged 2 wars, and for the first time in American history, did not raise a penny to pay for them. They had a man appointed to be the Securities and Exchange Commissioner, whose most memorable moment was taking a chainsaw to a pile of regulations that were supposed to keep Wall Street in check. And we all know what happened, don't we? People deserve to be angry. So along comes another Democratic president, Barack Obama, elected in 2008. And right after that election, he called and asked me to come see him in Chicago. And I didn't know why. It turned out he wanted me to be Secretary of State, and I was flattered and honored that he trusted me to take on what is the senior cabinet position and to work with him to try to undo the damage that had been done in the prior 8 years. But before we got to that, President-elect Obama looked at me and he said, "It is so much worse than they told us." And it was. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month. 9 million Americans lost their jobs and 5 million homes were lost. $13 trillion in family wealth was wiped out. People have a right and a reason to be angry. And at the same time, governors like Scott Walker were being elected to make it even harder for folks to have decent wages, rising incomes, good benefits. So I don't think President Obama gets the credit he deserves for digging us out of the ditch that the Republicans dropped us in the first place. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to create more jobs, jobs that can't be exported, good union jobs in lots of instances. We're going to do it by investing more in infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, our ports, our airports. And not only fixing and building what you can't see, we're going to fix what you can't, namely water systems that are falling apart, poisoning people with lead and other contaminants in the water supply. And I want us to have what I call a national infrastructure bank, so that we take public and private dollars and we don't wait just for the Congress to get around to appropriating the money, although we will do a lot better if we have a Democratic Congress. Secondly, I want us to make a big bet on advanced manufacturing. Look at what's happened here in Eau Claire. You went from making a lot of money off of hardwood, right, to hardware, software. You moved into the computer industry, and you've got some great businesses here. But that's not near enough. We need more people to do skilled labor in America, because right now there are about 1.2 million jobs that are not being filled for machinists and welders and tool and die makers and others who have the skills we need for advanced manufacturing. So I want us to change our tax code. Instead of providing incentives to export jobs, we're going to penalize people who export jobs, and we're going to put an incentive on bringing jobs right back here in Wisconsin. But I want to tell you how that will work. I'm not just saying this. When I was a senator from New York, upstate New York, a lot of great cities, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, places that had fueled America's manufacturing growth that fell on hard times. I spent a lot of figure out how we were going to create more jobs. Yesterday in Syracuse, I met with some of the people that I had helped. And what they're finding is they don't need a lot of help, but they need, number one, support to be able to export their products overseas, something that I believe in, because every other country with an advanced economy helps their companies export. That's a big difference between me and Senator Sanders. There's something called the Export-Import Bank. It helps American companies, a lot of them right here in Wisconsin, Tammy, export their goods and services overseas, and then they pay it back. It ends up not costing the Treasury a penny. But Senator Sanders doesn't like it, because you know what? It occasionally helps a big company. Those big companies also employ a lot of Americans, or they wouldn't get the help. And I don't understand how he could have sided with the Tea Party Republicans against a program that makes American businesses right here in Wisconsin more competitive. I'm going to pull out every stop to help people who want to make it in America again. You're going to have my attention, my support, and all of the subsidy and guarantee I can give you. And then we're also going to combat climate change. You know, the Republicans are always saying, well, I don't know, I'm not a scientist when they're asked about it. And I keep saying, go talk to a scientist, like, you know, colleges and universities right here in Eau Claire can help you out. So how are we going to combat it? Well, number one, I worked with President Obama starting in '09 to lay the groundwork to get the Paris Agreement that requires countries that never thought they would agree to anything to take climate change seriously. I'm really proud of that. But we've got to invest in how we make the transition from fossil fuels to clean renewable energy. So I've set two big goals. I want us to deploy 500 million more solar panels by the end of my first term, and enough clean energy to power every home in America by the end of my second term. And I'll tell you, these are also good jobs. You know, these are jobs in solar and wind and geothermal and other forms of clean energy that will put millions of Americans and Americans who want to start small businesses. And here's why it's so important. Some nation is going to be the 21st century clean energy superpower. I think it's going to be either China, Germany, or us. It should be us. And we should make it the highest priority of our nation. Now, in addition to growing the economy and stopping the bad actors, like any company that takes 1 penny of taxpayer money to site a plant or stay or expand, if they decide to move, I'm going to make them pay every penny back so that they realize they can't just get up and leave our country. And if they leave, we're going to slap a big exit tax on them, and we're going to use that money to invest in the communities that they have abandoned. But I think if we do more to incentivize small business and entrepreneurs, that is where 75% of the new jobs will come from. And we especially have to help young people get started with small business ideas that they have. Because all across this country, they tell me about their ideas. I met a young man in Iowa who, when he was growing up, he worked summers and after school in the local bowling alley. It was his dream someday to have a bowling alley. He got out of college. The people who had it in their family were going to sell it. He wanted to buy it, but he didn't have a lot of collateral. In fact, he had student debt and a car payment. He was still living at home when he got out of school. But he was able somehow to make it work, and now, he's employing 3 or 4 people. It's his dream. I want more young people to be able to follow that dream. And I do think we should raise the minimum wage, because at the end of the year, people who work full time are still in trouble. And finally, I want to echo what Tammy said. I was shocked when Wisconsin repealed the equal pay law. My goal is to make sure that women get paid equally for the work we do, not as some kind of special favor, but as fundamental fairness. If you're doing the same job, you get tried to tell you not only what I will do, but how I'll pay for it. I want you to know exactly how I'll pay for it. It really comes down to taxing the wealthy, which I think is the best way to pay for all of the improvements and the progress we want to make. And that's exactly what I intend to do, just like my husband did, and just like we need to do again. It's time they paid their share of supporting our economy that they benefit so greatly from. We also have to focus on education, because when you think about how to produce results, it starts with preschool education, early childhood education, so kids can get ahead. And then I want to be a good partner to America's teachers, because they should be supported, not scapegoated. They should be given the respect they deserve for doing this. And we've got to make college affordable. Both Senator Sanders and I share this goal. I believe what I have proposed for debt-free tuition is more feasible, more realistic. I know I can get it done, and I know that for two reasons. One, because it's been vetted by a lot of experts who study and know how higher education works and how we have to get the cost down. And they agree with me. I do not want to give free college to wealthy people. I think that this should be for the middle class, working people, and poor families. That's where we're not seeing enough young people be able to afford to go to school, stay in school. You know, I saw that. I taught at the University of Arkansas. And I saw hard-working young kids, first-generation high school students, sometimes first generation to graduate from high school, who were just working so hard. They scraped together that money, but if one thing went wrong, somebody in the family got sick, there was some sort of an emergency, maybe they lost the home they were renting, or it burned down. I heard the most, the saddest stories you can imagine. They dropped out. And they were really broken up about it. So I started a program there called the Arkansas Single Parent Scholarship Fund, because I was particularly concerned about these young people trying to better themselves who already had kids. And they had no margin. And so we raised money to take care of those costs that were not going to be covered by tuition. I want to give any kid willing to work for it the chance to go as far as he or she can in their education. And my plan, I do ask that students who get debt-free tuition work 10 hours a week, because that's one of the ways we get the costs down. And Senator Sanders, as I say, we share the same goal. His plan depends upon governors chipping in hundreds of millions of dollars. So his plan depends upon Scott Walker, who cut $250 million from higher ed this year, to chip in $300 million in order to give free college. That would take a deathbed conversion experience. And I'm not convinced that's going to happen. But the other piece of the puzzle is, what do we do with people who already have debt? How many people here have student debt? It's a lot of hands. Well, I think it's pretty fair to say that we have imposed an onerous burden on you that I want to lift. And here's how. We are going to refinance student debt, get that interest rate down to what the rate is. Because I'm meeting young people across Wisconsin who tell me their interest rate is 10, 12%. We haven't had interest rates like that in the economy for a long time. But somehow it's okay to charge young people and their families. I think that's wrong. I'm going to put an end to it. We are not going to let the government make money while we're lending money to young people. And then finally, when it comes to helping people have better lives, what's more important than your health? And I'm going to defend the Care Act. Now, I know that in the beginning, when people were unsure about it, you know, the Republicans were able to gin up a lot of opposition and a lot of really scary stories and make people very fearful about it. Well, now we've had a few years of experience, and I have somebody come up to me every week and thank me for defending the Affordable Care Act, and then they tell me their story. They say, you know, I made too much money to get any government help before, but I couldn't afford insurance. I had a headache. I didn't go to the doctor for a couple of years. I finally got the Affordable Care Act coverage. I went, they found out I had brain cancer. You hear a story like that, and you know, I looked at this woman, I said, well, how are you doing? And she said, I think I've got a good chance, but I wanted to tell you. My doctor said if it had been much longer, I would have had no chance. I hear those stories everywhere. So I'm going to defend it. The Republicans keep trying to repeal it. I will never let them repeal it. We're going to make it better. We're going to get the cost down. And we are going to finally rein in prescription drug costs, starting with giving Medicare the authority to negotiate for lower drug costs for Medicare physicians. There's a lot of other work to be done, but I just want you to listen to what the Republicans say, because yes, we're having a primary and I really need your help, but the most important goal is to win in November. And I believe I am the person best able to withstand whatever the Republicans They've been after me a really long time. And it drives me crazy, but I'm still standing. So that does mean we have to defend our rights. I will defend a woman's right to make her own health care decisions. I will defend Planned Parenthood against all of these Republicans. I will defend marriage equality and work to end discrimination against the LGBT. I will defend voting rights, which are under attack even here in Wisconsin. I will work to end Citizens United and give back financing of our elections to the people through public financing. McCain-Feingold was one of the best pieces of reform legislation that was passed, and I can't wait to work with Tammy and Russ to do it again. I will defend unions, the right to organize and bargain for good wages and benefits, and I will use the bully pulpit to explain to the American people that the American middle class in many ways owes its existence to the American labor movement. I will fight for people with disabilities so that they have the best possible future. I will continue to fight for comprehensive immigration reform so that this issue is resolved and not used as a partisan football. I will also ask all Americans and all gun owners to join me in pursuing common sense gun safety measures. I will tell you what I want to do, and this is supported by every survey I've seen by around 90% of Americans and 85% of gun owners. Gun lobby doesn't like it, but remember who they're really representing. They're representing gun makers and gun sellers. Follow the money. And they try to keep every gun owner in a white lather about what will happen, and that is just so unfair and wrong. What we got to do is comprehensive background checks, close the gun show loophole, the online loophole, the so-called Charleston loophole, and end the immunity from liability for makers and sellers, which is the only industry in America that is given that kind of blank check. The second test is you've got to keep America safe. And I appreciate what Tammy said. There is no higher duty, because your president is also your commander-in-chief. And I know from firsthand experience how important it is for us to lead the world in the fight against terrorism. This is the most important national security challenge we face. And we're up against a pretty sophisticated adversary in ISIS. They know how to use the computer, for example, the internet, to recruit, to radicalize, to celebrate their violence. And because of what's gone on in Europe, they have a lot of ways of getting in and doing the terrible crimes that we've seen in Paris and in Brussels. So I want you to know I've laid out a specific plan. I have spoken at length and had a lot of national security advisors and experts vet it and approve it. And I'm worried about what I hear coming out of both Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. And I think it's important to make just 2 points. With respect to Donald Trump, his language has reverberated around the world. And when he says keep Muslims out of America, a country like ours founded on religious liberty, when he says that he can just handle it, when he insults NATO and our Asian allies by saying basically we're going to walk away, he's putting at risk the coalition of nations we need to defeat ISIS. He's basically making our situation worse and more dangerous around the world. I know how hard it is to put together international coalitions, and I put together the one against Iran. I've spent a year and a half going all over the world, convincing everybody, including China and Russia, to join with us, because when I became Secretary of State, Iran was on a fast track to a nuclear weapons program, which had been going on before I ever, or President Obama ever showed up. So I know how hard it is. It seems to me it would become considerably harder if you spend your time insulting the religion of some of the nations you need in the coalition to give you information to try to prevent attacks from terrorists. So we are going to reject that. Makes us less safe at home. His assertion that we should be religiously profiling American Muslims and having special police patrols in their neighborhoods, I have no idea how you'd ever do that, but that is what he has said, runs counter to everything we learned in New York after 9/11. I feel I'm especially well prepared to deal with terrorism because I've had so much experience starting on 9/11, going through our most important counterterrorism action, which was to take out bin Laden, when I was one of the few advisors that were helping the president make that decision. And what we learned in New York is everybody's got to be part of our national defense. Everybody's got to be on the front lines. If you hear something suspicious, report it. If you see it, report it. And that's what we did in New York. So people were really encouraged, pick up that phone, go to your computer, let the NYPD, let the FBI know. And it was a very effective defense strategy. What Cruz would have us do is to tell the people who are most likely to have access to the best information, you're not wanted. We don't trust you. We don't need you. That makes the job of our police a lot harder. So we're just not going to let that happen. We are not going to let something that is dangerous to our long-term safety happen. And that brings me to my final point. The third test ought to be, can you So many people are trying to divide us versus them, pointing fingers at all kinds of folks. I think we need to get back together. We can have differences. We're Americans. That's kind of baked in the DNA. But we got to figure out how we're going to win and compete in the global economy, how we're going to lead with strength in accordance with our values. I want you to know I did, as First Lady, as Senator, as Secretary of State, everything I could to find common ground. I would go anywhere to meet with anybody on any issue to find common ground, to solve the problems facing our country. And I will also stand my ground, because I think there are some principles, some values, some rights that we have to be strong about. But so much of what we've got to do together on the economy and so much else, we can work on this if we have that spirit that really is at the core of the American democratic experiment. So I will end where I started, by thanking you and asking you to please look hard at this election, because this is the pathway that will lead to the person who walks into the Oval Office in January of 2017. And I would be deeply honored to earn your support, and I promise you, I will be there for you. You can talk to the people I represented in New York, some of whom I was with yesterday. Folks have called me a lot of things, but never quitter. If I tell you, I'll fight for you, I'll stand with you, I'll work for you, that's exactly what I'll do.